Are we ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith, who has lovely golden hair, wonderful new glasses. Are they Warburg Parkley? What's the one on TV? What's the one name?
Huh?
Parkley Warburg or whatever, the new one on TV advertised. She has a very wonderful foliage type top. So it's kind of like a camo, but jungle camo. And it's semi-sleeveless. What you call that when you cut out like that?
The shoulders?
Cold shoulder sleeves.
Cold shoulder sleeves.
never
Do
heard
women
of
have a
that.
name
Yeah.
and a description for every type of thing?
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, man. If you go Google it.
Every-
Because then the
Pass
shoulder
it
would be
away.
cold.
Every possible thing that you can have. They have different bowls. Like I just learned about the ramagons. It's like a certain sign of bowl. Ramekins.
When you put your creme brulee in those and stuff.
Right.
Ramekin.
I
It's a bowl.
right.
It's not a,
It's a bowl.
well,
I
It's
used
a
to
bowl.
have a set of 4, and I have a set of. I have
Of ramekins?
Mm-hmm.
You have any ramekins, Ken? No, but I have some bowls.
it's
Every little thing, they've got a thing, an assignment of a name and a thing.
gotta
Cold
have
shoulders, fluvo. I mean, whatever they have.
What is fluvo?
I don't know.
A male designer may have come up with that. Why are you saying women got
But-
what's that gesture?
No, that was like, hi, how you
that-
doing?
what was that
That was,
gesture?
hi, how are you? You all right?
Your wrist seems
So you went with gold. You got the
course.
gold. What's that here? What's that color called?
What?
blonde.
Sunset? Okay. Blonde?
Sunset looks more red.
Okay. So there's a sunset. See, I only said that.
When the sun sets, what color is it? It's like an orangey red. color.
Orangey, goldish, golden. Yeah. So it does well with your complexion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How are you?
Temperamental.
Okay. Yeah.
What's that? More over
Do me
to
a favor.
the
Do me
so-and-so
a, do me a
side.
favor. Do me a favor. When you ask me in future, because I was trying to like say anything, I'm just going to say perfectly, always wonderful.
No, because that's not accurate.
Okay.
But I'm just surprised.
No,
That's
but I
all.
wouldn't say. But by the way, I wouldn't say that to other people.
I asked you.
Oh, well, I
In-
thought
in
you meant in this
describe-
room. Sorry,
No,
I wasn't. I would do that.
And I said that surprised me because
I
that's
wouldn't do
not
that to
something
other
the way
folks.
I would.
No, I would
describe-
never do that to other people. No, sorry.
I think you would.
No, I wouldn't. Because you know why? Because let me tell you why. And you know I wouldn't, because let me tell you why you know I wouldn't. Let me tell you why I know I wouldn't. When I have described you to folks for different, things like references. So I put that in there.
Let me tell you.
I've not put that in there.
When people ask me what it's like to work with you,
What do you say?
it's positive things.
Well,
and
I
at
would
the
be
tail
positive.
end, I might say he gets on my nerves, and then I'll always say, but I get on his nerves too.
But I'm going to use that from now on.
What?
She gets on my nerves, but I get on her nerves too. That's a good one.
But I always say that, and that's always a crazy yeah.
It's a nerve thing for us. It's what you call dual nerves.
But that's totally different from.
But that's in here. Just move away from that now.
That's not.
Never again. And by the way, well, I'll explain to you later. Candy, how you doing?
Just listening to y'all is exhausting.
It's exhausting. It is. But listen, hearing it is exhausting.
Huh?
Hearing it.
Or taking part in it?
Oh, yeah.
No, y'all.
But
are
it's wonderful.
Yes.
Yes.
I love y'all nonetheless.
I told him he'd do well with a more docile co-host.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
No, no,
I think he
no.
would. I
Because
think
it
he
would.
would.
Well, but no, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be.
Let's do it my way.
It
and
wouldn't
then
be.
there's
No,
me, and
no,
I'll-
no.
yeah,
It wouldn't be.
and
It
let
wouldn't
him
be fun.
talk and-
It wouldn't be fun. It wouldn't be.
But
It wouldn't come
it'll
off.
truly be the Ed Fields
It would,
live
yeah,
show.
but that wouldn't come off. That wouldn't come off to the listening audience as enjoyable.
But it'll be enjoyable to you.
No, but that's not what you're here for. You're not here for the enjoyable of me. You're here for the enjoyableness of the audience. Period. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. So, how was your weekend?
It was excellent.
And what did you do? Did you care to share with us?
Yeah, well, Saturday, what did I do Saturday? Saturday was an easy day, but Sunday, our best friend Jerome invited me to take part on this.
Our?
meeting. Yes, our best friend.
I don't
Jerome.
befriend
Sawyer.
frauds.
What did he invite you to do?
So he's affiliated with Miss Bahamas
Right.
organization. So I was on a panel along with Kyle, Joaquin, and
okay.
Shanique.
Let me ask you a
I thought
question.
he invited you
If
out
I could
and
get my
stuff, and y'all
sentence
were
out.
hanging out, and I was going to be very upset because he didn't invite me.
No, that's what I want to talk about.
It's just
Excuse
to talk
me.
to the
This is a
contestants.
talk show
and,
between me and you now.
Well,
If
just
someone
wait, look, Danny, all the way over there.
says, our best friend,
And
Which
did
mean
not
me and her.
right.
and to Miss Bahamas bikinis.
And you
Miss
were not
Bahamas.
invited?
And I'm invited. How is it our? How would our
No,
get
I
in
This
there?
agree.
was in the bikini section.
Well, what section was it?
This is the media section to teach them
No,
how
ask
to,
Jer-
to
ask
comport
Jerome-
themselves when dealing with the
Ask
media.
Jerome why he didn't invite us. Or at least,
Our.
at the very
Our.
least,
The
you know,
hour.
Ed. Well, I could have spectated.
I think he wanted you to participate.
Me
Oh.
to
Yeah,
participate?
to interview the girls.
Oh, yeah, I can
well,
do
I
that.
can do that. we can do that. We can do that.
We can
Well, I
just,
guess-
you know,
awesome.
I guess our
but that's
me and
not,
in Jerome language.
right. My best friend invited me.
Yeah.
That's how.
But he said our.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he is our best friend.
But I don't get
And
invited
a great
nowhere.
friend of the show. You must think you ain't gonna be interested.
Nothing like best friends. Again. See, let me explain how best friends do it. How they do it is this. Hey, listen, what's happening, Ken? Rogan, Candy. What you all doing Saturday? Oh, yeah, because I got this thing going on with the Miss Bikinis.
It wasn't
And-
no bikinis.
Well, Miss people. And the thing is, you interested? And then you give your hours an opportunity to
I
say,
just-
well, I got something going on. I'm not interested in that. You don't assume for hour. So that's 2 strikes. He teeth your icon.
But you.
Okay.
I
And
think he's more hurt than you.
All I do is laugh.
Yeah.
So funny.
what else did you do besides go out with our friend
With some beauty queens.
and beauty and
I just,
on top of
want
that?
an outing.
That was good.
Right?
You want an
just-
outing?
Yeah, like I just.
Let's go watch
I didn't
Ma-
have to do. I just could just sit there.
Let's go watch Medea.
It wasn't like
What's
our
that?
our
Let's go watch
friends and
Medea.
let's go to the Bible study.
What Medea
It's
movie?
our
There's a
friend
Medea movie
who
out
go to
there.
Miss Bahamas, Ken.
Tyler.
Me and you. He bring
I
her.
don't think if he'd called you would have said yes. I think you're
know
in
for
love
that.
with the idea of being extended the
I
invitation.
think you're going way out
But
on what
I
people
can see
have
you
an
saying-
idea
I
of.
think you saying, no,
Yeah,
not
trust me,
interested
trust
in
me,
that.
trust me. Me and Ken, we had the Miss Bahamas one. On that one. Trust me on that.
But it wasn't any bikinis involved.
Yeah, but they have forms.
Oh, jeez.
Okay?
No, but it was awesome.
We know about form. So what you're saying then, okay, watch this now, Ken, is that our friend will be invited us for the bikini section.
I'd say that. I will
That's
let
what you
him,
said.
I will, huh?
You said that. And I'm holding you and him to it.
Let me text him and ask him if you can
Yeah,
go to the
text him.
bikini.
Yeah.
First of all, you know what? You
And
get
we only
on.
need to hold up the carton or something. You know, the thing with just do the light.
Kendrick, you in on this?
Yes, babe.
Okay, that's why
We
Oh my
have.
God, I'm so surprised.
Listen, that's what we do. That's our job. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with, what did he say?
Oh my God, he was funny. He said, yes, Mom.
Of course. That's our friend. You know what? Let me tell you something. No, I can tell you what I believe happened. Let me tell you what I believe happened. Because, she likes to tell other people what they're thinking. Okay? That's what she likes to do. Well, I didn't think you would, and he didn't think. Let me tell you what I think happened, Ken. I think that our friend Jerome invited us, and she
relay the message.
filtered the message.
No, they won't come.
Yeah, they ain't like that. They ain't into that.
They home
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Home. They say they ain't into
Uh-huh. And she laughing a lot, so it's guilt.
That
Yeah.
was a lie. I can let him respond.
Yeah. All right. What else did you do? But I told you it was Candace's birthday on Friday, so I'll give her a birthday on Thursday. So I'll give her a belated. It's not belated. I'll just give her another.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So we had a birthday there.
Happy belated birthday.
What are you saying?
Kendo.
Say it on the air.
I'm so over them.
Who? The Miss Bahamas? He must be mean to Miss
He
Bahamas.
must be mean. Because he mean.
Because we ain't no friends no more like that.
Oh, Lord.
I'm gonna have to text him. But anyway, I'm not gonna text the so-called icon.
Tell Jerome he's on my favorite people list.
Huh?
Or at least was.
Tell him he
on the borderline now.
He at the bottom. I'm about to shift him.
Yeah.
Tell him don't do that to me. Don't do that. He could do that to Ed.
Yeah. But look, I have ways of making all of you pay.
Don't do me like that.
You don't get no control.
I have ways of making all of you pay. So, Candy, what's happening with you?
You didn't ask me about my weekend.
Well, do we do that?
No.
Okay. So what did you do this weekend, Candy?
I worked and I had Sunday off and kind of went to the beach but didn't go to the beach because I didn't go to the water in the water.
So you see why we didn't ask you then.
You went to the beach, you just didn't go to the water.
Didn't really go.
Didn't go to the water,
Yeah.
just us Bahamians, we ain't going into the water until
I haven't been to the beach in ages.
like I'm not going.
It's too hot.
Can't, it's not too hot.
That's
The
the time
water's
to go.
too cold.
No, I mean it's just the whole beach thing. It's
You don't like the sand, eh?
the sand, the sun, the whole thing. It's just it's
Okay,
not,
okay.
it's not for,
For the miserable
it's really not for
Bahamian.
the Noirs, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
So-
tell us what your topic is. We'll get started on that. Our
Yeah.
guest this afternoon, folks, is going to be Dr. Dwayne Sands, and I forget the other lady. I think I want to say Dr. Chelsea Moxie, but I'm not 100% sure. But we'll get the right names. And so what's going on?
So I don't know. Y'all haven't talked about this, but the whole college admissions bribery scandal that's been
See, I
going
like
on.
that. I like that. Them kind of talk.
Huh?
I like them kind of talks.
Right. So just to give people a recap, about 50 people were allegedly a part of this whole scheme to influence admissions decisions at several American universities. Some celebrities, some executive,
People with
chief
cash.
executives, and wealthy people. Now I know you might want to talk about that topic in particular, but that's not specifically what I wanted to talk about. It's just this whole issue made me think about how far are parents are willing to go to and what they're willing to do for their child, and
It's
mind
all
you,
relative to what they have.
now let me just say this. I know they said one of the kids had spoken out about they didn't even want to go to college, and so you have this parent shelling out all of this money to get them into this college to direct them in a future that they want them to go into, and it's almost like what are we doing to to these kids? We're not even preparing them we're controlling everything that they do, or we're trying to control everything that they do, their path that they that we want them to take, and it's
they don't even want.
right, and so it kind of it makes me think about a lot of kids around here walking around don't have the necessary life skills to for life, because parents are always doing everything for them, as something you can't even get into a college on your own,
Right.
on your own merit,
Right.
whether it so that's what I wanted to talk about. Basically, I know now I will give you your chance to talk about
I don't know. It's the same. It's on the same line.
Oh yeah,
But I just think that people do
like
there's been in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, but more in the last 10, 15 years, a huge amount of concentrated wealth at the 1% level.
oh yeah,
People have at certain levels just unimaginable amounts of money. The other day I was down by the Odyssey,
yeah,
and I mean the amount of jets. I mean, and that's just here. You know, everywhere they got.
All over the
so there's
world.
so what people do, just like how your parent might have picked up the phone and called someone who they know at a school or a job and say, listen, my daughter's applying for a job. Can you look at the now someone has $1 billion, so they just donate a wing
yeah.
to the school
Yeah.
because it's the same to them proportionally as picking up the phone.
Apparently
You see
there
what
were
I'm saying?
bribes up to $6 million.
Oh no, the people who building buildings, man.
Yeah.
Given $100 million, listen, I won't give the school $100 million endowment. Hey, by the way, my child won't go to the college, eh?
That happens quite often.
And
In fact, they say
and
that's
the
the
child
legal
doesn't
way.
necessarily. That's not necessarily
No.
what the child wants to do.
No.
A lot of them don't want to go to college. A lot of them
No.
are not equipped to even. I mean, they're not that smart to even get
Right.
into college. But the parents will make a phone call, like he says, and because they have the money to build a wing or to build a whatever, they get in.
Yeah.
In fact, they do it a sneaking way. They give the building the $100 million, right? And then the whatchamacallit, the provo or whoever at the school. But so, and by the way, you have any kids who might be interested in going to the school? Yeah, I'll check and see if they're interested. Because
Yeah,
if
they
I call,
already knew.
they come in.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what their grades
Yeah.
look like.
They name what they name? Smith? Rogad Smith Jr.?
No.
No, I'm just saying.
Don't use your name.
See, if you use Rogad Smith, give them a building. So your child named Roganis? Oh yeah. Anyone who named Rogi, Rogazal, anything with Rogue, you go with it.
Rogazal.
But it's
So I'd seen another article.
you like that man?
Funny.
Stemming from this whole topic that kids aren't growing up on, like, we're not allowing our kids to grow up. It's because we continue to handle our children's affairs. We keep, it's just anything like reminding them to, do their homework, reminding them they have a test. You have
Great deal
people
of coddling. I don't like that.
But it is
Well, I
so
mean,
it
your
is
parents
real.
shouldn't remind you how to do your homework when you're
Well,
primary
okay,
school.
so,
When
so
you're in primary
with this
school.
article, with this
never primary
article,
school.
it
Grade
starts like, yes, you have parents who do who handle a lot
They
of their
shouldn't do the
children's
homework.
thing, not do the homework, but in high school, it starts off in high school, and when you start handling your children's things like that in high school, and you can't let go of that, then you start handling the things in college,
It is a
and then
thing.
after college, you start handling them as adults.
My mom didn't
And
even know
they
how to do
do
my
not-
homework. Okay.
No, well, no one.
They
yeah,
are not
yeah.
equipped for
No,
that
none of that.
kind
No, but
of
my
stuff.
parents made sure that I did my homework, but like on camera watching TV versus not doing homework. You know what I mean? That's basic, basic.
No.
But
I see a great deal of coddling.
but there's the kids now though. I mean the wealth and because what I saw the debate on this thing, it wasn't just about this thing. What it highlighted was the level of separation between those who have and those who don't. And what one guy said, I think might have been Lawrence O'Donnell, was what really made him sad was the kid who that kid replaced.
Yeah.
The kid who deserved to go to school,
and wanted
to
like,
go to school.
genuinely
but
wanted to be there.
But that one knocked them out of place,
And you got I can't remember it was the daughter of the actress, Lori
Laughlin.
Laughlin
from Fuller House now.
Her daughters did not even want to be there. And so yes, like you say, like who would they have knocked out? Who genuinely wanted to
go there,
explore
yeah,
and
yeah.
be and have a spot there.
Speaking of, this is a completely kind of different thing, but I want to ask you about this as well because I don't know if this has to do with that. So I was speaking to a friend of mine who is a psychologist, and they told me that their daughter is actually a psychologist. That a great part of her practice, she practices in the States, kids transitioning from high school to college are going to have to deal with psychologists to get through. Are you aware of that?
From high school to college?
Going from transitioning from high school to college.
Now, is this regular high school? Or
High
is it
school.
Like,
And why is
or is it boarding school?
why do you have
That's why I was
difficulty
wondering if you're aware of
transitioning?
that because I mean, when I went to college, you go.
Yeah.
right.
Now
But-
maybe we just weren't
And
aware
I
of the
think that
people who
is
were having
because-
problems.
That is because these parents possibly they are. What do they call them? Like they call them
Hovering
helicopter,
them, yeah.
lawnmower, attachment,
kids.
all these different labels.
But I
for
think
these
that's
parents.
probably. I tend to think that things don't just pop up. So, for instance, in any freshman class, if you go to college, that freshman class goes down by 25-30% into the next year. People who couldn't make it. And I'm just wondering if people just, had all these issues. Because that's why they have fraternities and teams and all that, so people can fit in. Because it's hard to make an adjustment from high school where you knew everyone and you were in the know and all that.
I don't think that's it. I think you have parents who who do everything for their child. Like they remove any obstacles that the child. They don't allow the child to make it their own mistakes. They don't like I have my daughter's in grade 7, right? And I tell her yes, I tell her to prepare whatever she needs for the night before for the next day. If she leaves a project home, you think I'm going back for that project to go deliver the project to school?
I don't blame you.
No, you forgot.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's a
No.
little different from the social transitioning. thing.
But I don't think
plays
it's
a
a
part.
social
It plays
part.
a part.
It plays a part because
Yeah,
right.
I
so
agree with you, Candy.
while she was very upset, and I could have very well taken the project and what would she have
It's
learned?
a lesson learned for
What would she have learned? And that's what parents do,
yeah,
though.
I'm saying I understand that, but I'm saying, and I'll explain something to you later, that that's different from responsibility, learning how to be responsible, from being in an environment which is a safe environment in your school in Omaha, Nebraska, and then you go to like Florida State or something that you don't know anyone, that transition can be difficult. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's a
that's-
difficult transition.
Yeah.
I think that's too why, like even in the Bahamas, like I remember when I wanted to just go away to school, my mommy was like, no, you take your butt to COB first, and you know, you let me see that you're responsible and you could handle yourself here. Then you can go away. And I've seen so many of my friends when I was coming up, their parents said the same thing. You know, like, go get your feet wet in a college environment, and then you can go away to school rather than just right from high school and going far away from your parents and you know. And
It's
not
a- it's
knowing
a
how to
But you don't
transition.
think you don't think the two of them are linked in a way? Because you can't separate the two. Like somebody, you know what I mean? You can't.
I just think
separate
that
them.
there's a human social element to being in a comfort zone. No matter how much suppose you didn't coddle your child at all, but they were in a comfortable environment here. Let's say, you know, a young black woman goes off to somewhere in, you know, Nebraska or something like that. That adjustment is a major adjustment.
I don't. Yeah, I
You
get
know,
it.
now-
but I mean,
now
if
you
you
and
were
I may not
raising a
feel that
child,
way.
yeah, I'm just saying,
But
if you're
different-
raising a child who, yes, with responsibility, confidence, and X, Y, and Z, you know, I think.
Well, I'll. But how much time we got before?
You understand what I mean,
Okay.
Rogan? I think they're linked to some
There
extent.
is a linking, but there's a lot of. That's why people gravitate to fraternities, to teams. You know, when you look at the
like a
when you
crutch.
look at the what do you call it, the sports. Sports is classic. A high percentage of athletes, pro athletes especially, completely fall apart when they leave their teams. Because for all these years from high school, they're used to being a part of a team.
Right, and they can't stand.
And when
alone.
the ones who succeed, you know who succeed after they leave sports? Those who stay in a team environment. Like, for instance, they join a firm that it's they're smarter than average, but they try a financial team where there's collaboration and working together, right? Because they're used to being in that kind of team scenario.
But it doesn't teach them to be on their own.
Exactly.
See, and so it's again, it's just replaced the
you're
parent.
going to perpetuate the same
Well, the parent
exact
had, but the
thing
parent had
that-
nothing to do with that. What I'm saying is, in a
No.
team, the parent had nothing to do with the team.
No, but what I'm saying to you is you went from the kid went from one environment where the parent was there hovering and being that support system or whatever, and they just replaced the parent with the team.
You're just
but they don't know
replacing
how to
the-
own on their own through
I
life.
think there's a
And
balance. That's why I say there's a link
But
to that.
let me put it to you this way, because I don't think the parent and the team links up. Because someone
I
could
do
join a
think so.
basketball team at age 7 and have nothing to do with the parent. I just want to play basketball. Okay? Suppose you are in a high school here and you have a very good, tight friend base. And then when you go off to school, none of that exists.
But
No, just hear me out now. It doesn't exist. You have to get to know new people. You weren't ever used to getting to know new people. It just so happened that this is how you evolved. You went through.
But being a team is only a part of it. Like
No,
you can't.
I wasn't saying
you
a
ha-
team. I'm talking about just your social network.
I understand that, but that's that. But then now you are only focusing on one aspect of a child. Like you have to focus on the whole
It's
child,
totality.
and
I agree.
you have to be able to be
You're being
on your
very.
own.
Let me just say this, and I'm going to explain something to you off the air.
Sure.
You're being very extreme, and you know what I'm going to say. You're being very dogmatic on that because it's not
Okay, I
one.
might be.
Because it's not one thing fits all. That's all I'm saying. Different
might
people have
be.
different experiences.
And I know why you feel the way
Right.
that you feel.
But different
I'll say that
people,
off
but
air.
different,
Yeah.
but different people. But not forget about that. But different people have different experiences, and not
And I
because
agree.
they don't fit into an environment, someone else did something. It's just maybe that person.
All
Okay,
I-
different people have different
all
feelings.
I'm
I
saying-
went to school, no problems.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But I had a group of,
All I'm saying is, I don't think we're doing our kids any favors
No.
by coddling them to that extreme and then having them replace us with a team environment or whatever. That's great to be in a team. That's great to have that
Because
environment.
at some point you're going to
You
have
have
to
to go
face
it alone.
You're going to have to face some.
You can't.
Yeah.
That's why we have.
And when do you do that?
well, that's
when
what
those
you
things aren't available, these people feel like, oh, I don't know what to do with myself because they're not accustomed
And
to
then
being
you
on
have-
their own.
yeah.
and-
But what they
and
do
doing
is they
things for
search
themselves.
out. They search. I mean, it happens just even in relationships,
But then
right?
you're constantly looking for something instead of looking at,
Yeah, but no one
towards
does. No
yourself.
one likes aloneness.
Yes, some people
No,
do.
I'm not saying
They're
that.
comfortable with being
No,
by
I'm not
themselves.
saying that everybody likes aloneness, but it is. I think you ought to be able to be alone.
Right.
Yes.
But it's not. That's when you choose to be. You don't wish to.
Yeah.
You
Go
don't
ahead.
wish to be alone 24 hours. You want to choose when you can be alone, but if you don't have a choice of that,
But when
Right?
you don't have a choice, you should be able to handle it.
Exactly.
well,
And that's why I agree with you.
okay,
Kenny.
well, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
You should be able to
You
handle
you
it.
see, it's easy to
Right.
say because you
Yeah.
don't have that. You've not had that experience.
And I agree. I am coming from
Okay.
I'm
You've not had
coming
that
from
experience.
my own
What
experience.
experience
The experience she hasn't had is you're never. You can choose when you wish to be alone.
No,
There are
I
ti-
can't.
No, I'm sorry. The point I'm making is if you decide that if you're in a school environment, for instance, I'm using Candy as an example, if you're in a school environment, right, you had a network of friends, etc. If you decide that I want some me time, you go and do the me time. There are people who didn't make friends. Okay, those are the people with the Tommy gun.
I'm going to tell
okay?
you my experience of how I got dropped off at college all by myself. Like,
But let me tell you,
but
Candy,
it's
you're an
experi-
attract. Listen, let me just be frank. You're an attractive young lady.
That don't mean nothing.
All right, I'll leave it at that
I'm
then.
listening, but I'm just saying that
No,
don't mean nothing.
you're an attractive young lady.
That
What I'm
means
saying is,
nothing.
suppose you are a not necessarily attractive young lady who happens to be in an environment where you don't draw friends and where guys may not be attracted to you. You just are not popular. All of those things. That
No,
can put you in a.
I get it.
But
I
all the more
understand.
reason why
but-
you should be able to be by yourself.
Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. I'll
Hey, we
conclude
gone
with
deep
that.
with that one.
I'll conclude
Yeah,
with that.
we're
I'll
on the break.
conclude
You
with that.
understand
Yeah.
why.
Well, our guest is going to be Dr. Dwayne Sands, and we're going to be talking about health in the Bahamas and all of the issues that affect our health. And we'll also talk about some other stuff because there's other stuff going on. I got to talk about them CBDs and all them kind of things. We'll be back in a moment. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields here along with Rogan Smith and Candelaria Thompson talking about adjusting and bringing up children and how they adapt to certain environments.
So I watched this movie on Netflix. I think it's called Walk, Ride, Rodeo, and it's based on a true story of Amberly Snyder. She was a rodeo competitor, whatever that means. The rodeo. So she got into an accident and she's paralyzed from the waist down. And for somebody who rides horses, that was very difficult. But in her journey to get back and to rehabilitate and get back to her regular life, she had a mother who was, she was very. I admired the mother in this story. She was very soft, very gentle, but she was also firm when she needed to be. And there was a point in the story where Amberly did not want to go to rehab, and she was feeling sorry for herself, and she had a, big, bad attitude at that point. And it's so easy for people to feel sorry and say, you know what, she's in a wheelchair, we should not, we feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Man, her mommy, she kicked that wheelchair towards her. She said, you know what, stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get in this chair and let's go to rehab because you're going.
Yeah.
You have some parents who are like going to coddle the child and be like, no, I'm sorry.
Lost her dream and all that
And
stuff. Yeah.
right, it still, and we were talking offline. It boils down to parenting too.
Yeah.
It depends on the approach that you take with your child. Whether you are going to always swoop in and save your child,
I absolutely
and
agree.
and shield your child from whatever obstacles that they may face, or you're going to be like, listen, this is what we have to do, and I'm here for you, and we could talk through it.
I love you,
and I love you, but we have to. This is what we have to do.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
Okay. Well, what else am I going to say? Because I don't want to counteract it. I'm just telling you, every parent is going to make a decision how they're going to grow up the child. Period. Full stop. That's what's that's what's going to happen,
and that
right?
parent has to deal with the consequences.
Right. And guess what? And guess what? There will be people, and this is all I'm trying to say, because I don't think there's a right or wrong. There will be people who take the approach that you may take, and they may have to deal with the consequences of that. Because every reaction, every relationship is different. So one, that same mother who kicked the child, not kicked the child, kicked the wheelchair.
Not the child.
What I'm saying, the wheelchair.
Yeah.
There are probably 100 who do the same thing, and the children react different ways.
Right.
So it's not, it's not I can't be in a position to say, when someone is doing something wrong, absolutely, like abuse.
Right.
We don't have to go gray on that, right? But you're going to have to really be adaptive, if that's a word, or being able to adapt to what some children can or cannot do, or cannot not handle. You can't, for instance, make a child who is a 100-pound weakling, and I don't use that. So it's just a slight of build,
right,
become, a linebacker. Go in there, boy, and be a man. Well, then, he's going to end up with a broken arm or something like that. Okay, that's just the way it is. It's not the child's fault that he happened to be physically less, developed than someone else.
No, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about, though.
No. All I'm saying, I know you're not talking
about
that.
I'm not asking a child to be something that the child is not. Like or trying to put a child into something that I want the child to do and then get mad that the child is not doing what I. Right.
No.
Right.
That's not what I'm asking.
But it's all a form of, like you talk about parenting. People do funny things. I was only using this example.
That wasn't a good example.
Well, I could say.
No, I'm not trying to be mean.
It's not a fair. Right.
There are people who I'm saying, no matter what the example is, are doing the wrong thing by their child. Some are doing the right thing, some are doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You have to really be.
And your methods change with I have two children, and the way I deal with one is not the way that I deal with the other. But
there you go.
No, but I'm not forcing them to do things that I want them to do, or I'm forcing them to be something that I want them to be.
You say that, but in a way that you may bring them, they may feel that you're forcing them. See, that's the thing. It's all perspective, right? Mm-hmm. If you say, you know what, my child, I'm not going to show my child. I'm not saying you do.
No,
I'm not going to show my child how to do their homework, or I'm not going to tell my child that they should do their homework. Well, that child might need you to say, do your homework, because maybe they'll just sit and watch TV all day.
And what if your child doesn't want daddy or mommy to keep coming over and saying, have you done your homework? Have you eaten and all that stuff? They just want to be independent. And I don't know why my father or my mother's always over me.
But I'm saying is, I'm using a very clear example. If you say, I'm not going to worry about my child doing the homework, being a clear example, and instead the child says, you know what? Good. I'm glad mommy ain't telling me about no homework, because I watching me some Bewitch. I can watch me a Bewitch marathon. Well, then fine. You can let the child watch the Bewitch marathon. You didn't tell them how to do the homework, and now they only know how to do like with their nose. Okay, so that's fine. These are the choices you have to make. Because at some point, if you have any kind of thought process and you see them watching a Bewitch marathon, you can go, have you done your homework? You don't just let them do the Bewitch marathon, do you?
No.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, anyway.
Anyway,
I hopefully the audience understands what I mean.
But I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying that it's not a clear, it's not very, it's not just cut and dry. That's the bottom line. Listen, Candy, it's always a pleasure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Stop saving.
Yeah. Be tough and hard.
No, I never said to be tough and hard. No. It's talking to your child and then talking through things but also allowing the child.
You know that, right?
Especially if it's not
so do I. But Candy doesn't.
Especially if it's not a mistake that is detrimental to them. But allow them to stumble.
Let them stumble.
Let them stumble. Let them make their
Get back
mistakes.
up.
That's
And if they
how
do the wrong thing, Rogan, what
That's
should
how
you do?
they learn.
Talk to them.
That's how they
first
learn.
of all,
You have
before
to
go, I
talk.
don't believe in just beating children just
No.
off
I
rip.
know you don't.
That's like
I
a
know
last
you
resort
You
thing
gotta
for me.
talk. You
There's
gotta
lots of
talk to
punishment
your
in between
children
there.
and try to help them through different and navigate through different situations.
We gotta go.
That's all we could do.
Thank you.
Thanks,
We'll
Candy.
see you next Monday.
All your life, you've had.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ed Fields, along with Rogan Smith, who is saw cut skin.
I tell you, but one slap.
No, but that don't count.
No, that counts.
Oh,
That was
yeah?
a defining moment.
What'd they say? Well, they used to say, "I'll slap your mouth twist." You know, remember that?
She slapped me hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have as our guest this afternoon Dr. Dwayne Sands and Xavier Knowles, young man Xavier Knowles. Xavier, how old are you, Xavier?
I'm 23.
Okay.
Yeah, you're young looking 23, my friend.
Oh,
Is-
good
is-
luck to you.
But as we get older, I think people just look younger. You know, I remember when I was a kid and I used to watch the football games on TV, right? The college games. And you watch the cheerleaders and you're like 15, 14. Man, them cheerleaders look like women. But now they look like, children. But that's how it is. So we're here to talk about, now give me the name of the program. I'm going to introduce Xavier first because he's going to do the PR for the ministry. Give us the name of the program.
The program is called What You're Cooking. It's a health show, per
Yeah.
se, that gives information about healthy eating, healthy lifestyles, healthy options to cook in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That are affordable, that can relate to a cross-section of Bahamians.
Right.
But that's the gist of it.
Because right now we're cooking some potato salad and some peas and rice and some macaroni and cheese. The tree starches, the tree starch staples.
A very unhealthy plate.
Yes, boy, but it tastes good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's something that the Ministry of Health and the Minister of Health started just to bring forth this initiative of healthy eating, because we're in the process of revising the breadbasket list with healthier options. So you have a lot of root crops on there, peanuts, so forth, vegetables. We have those things on the breadbasket now that they're going to allow persons to have healthier options with price control.
Well, let me ask the minister. I saw a program many years ago called Biggie Size It.
Oh, yes.
And there was another one. You see, if you've watched these programs,
Is it Biggie Size It?
Biggie Size
That's
Me
what
or
it's
Biggie
called.
something like that.
Something along those lines, yeah.
It was about, Mac and
Yeah,
Don's,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
the
yeah.
guy ate it for 3 months. He has
Yeah.
irreversible damage. Then there was Food Inc. That's another one about how people and the thing that really stuck in my mind, especially with Biggie Size It, is that basically it's too expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah, we've heard that.
I mean, that it's easier to take a family of four through a drive-through in the morning than to get them fruits and vegetables, fruits and stuff to cook. Is that the case here in the Bahamas?
Well, that has been the claim. And what we have tried to do is with the revision of the bread basket. The bread basket's been around since 1974. And with this revision, what we sought to do was to make sure that healthier items were not only as expensive, but less expensive than unhealthy items, so that excuse falls away. And with the price control on healthy food and the elimination of VAT, it becomes very hard to say, I cannot afford to eat healthy. In addition, you have all of the pop-up markets from BAIC and the other farms. And quite frankly, it's very hard to get a bill more than $10 if you go out there.
To get a whole, have you been out there?
To get a whole lot of produce.
Yeah, I hear that.
So
the food is good.
the claim that you cannot afford to eat healthy in the Bahamas is becoming less and less true.
Okay. So having said that, I know that you tried to do the corned beef thing, raise the pricing or whatever, the sugar thing. So there's a lot of pushback. But isn't it but the bottom line is, it's not just about cost, because I like that. I like the fire engine. I don't like broccoli engine.
To have to
Okay.
So one of the
palate.
ideas of this show is to get from the position. The position used to be, if you like it, let it kill you, right?
That was the position.
If it tastes good, spit it out. to get
Overtaste
people to
basket.
understand that you could actually have healthy food that tastes really good. And people go, wow, this boy, I could try this again. Once they know how to do certain things, because bear in mind that most of us learn how to cook from your mummy, from your auntie, from your Grammy, and this is what I learned how to cook. I never learned how to cook these other things.
Yeah.
Okay? So when somebody shows you how to make something in 20 minutes or 25 minutes that is economical and that it actually tastes good, you say, man, ain't nothing wrong with this. But bear in mind, those shows demonstrated that the commercial food complex manipulates your brain.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
They manipulate your brain by eliminating the triggers that say, hey, I'm full, or, I stall.
Well, it don't taste good.
So ordinarily, when you eat, your body, your stomach sends a signal to your brain that says, that's enough, you don't need any more. But when you use high fructose corn syrup, trans fats, all of these things, there are chemicals in the food that override that signal. You just keep going, mashing. So that's the reason why you could drink a 64-ounce soda. Because that signal that would tell you to stop, you're already on sugar overload, your brain is shut down.
Yeah.
Do we have stats on the number of people in this country who are suffering from these non-communicable diseases like the hypertension, the diabetes, and all that?
And the numbers are staggering. We have more than 100,000 diabetics, more than 100,000 hypertensives. Okay? Now, add to that about 600 people with end-stage renal failure on dialysis at a cost to the people of the Bahamas of between $50,000 to $80,000 each, paid for by you and me.
Mm-hmm.
You do the arithmetic, that's $25 million a year just on dialysis. Just on dialysis.
I was at this place called Pritikin. You may or may not have heard of it. And it taught you about really the whole food complex, the industrial, commercial food complex. And many of the people who work there used to work for places like Kraft and all that, right? And how the whole fooling of you. So, for instance, something that says fat-free, like Pam, right? What they don't tell you is, first of all, they have a deal with the FDA that says it's per serving, number one. And it's 0.3 seconds. They have it on the can. No one ever reads this. It's 0.3 seconds of a spray to be fat-free.
And
but never you get the pan.
Yeah, we go on past
0.3 seconds, it don't reach the pan. It doesn't reach the pan. The spray can't reach the pan. Mm-hmm. But so they have all these mechanisms. They would teach you how you could go into a movie theater, for instance, and 3 people could get 3 different sizes of popcorn, and everyone would eat all, right, of the size. So and then they would be okay. So the one who had the small would eat all and be okay. The one who had the medium would be okay. To your point about you just eat and eat, they just give you a tub. I eat that tub. Mm-hmm. You don't hold it. You don't hold back. So how do we though get? And because this is to me the big thing, Dr. Sands, is our restaurants. The Bahamian quote unquote restaurant has a monolithic menu. Okay? Mm-hmm. You will see the same thing on every menu in every car trunk, no matter where you go. Mm-hmm. How do we get our chefs, and I guess this is what your show might be, in restaurants to when you go to that Bahamian restaurant that they're cooking something that is uniquely Bahamian, but yet is healthy and tastes good?
So you're dealing with a cultural phenomenon. Mm-hmm. So let's walk through the process. I walk into one of these restaurants. There is a typically large bosom woman on the other side with a shovel in her hand, okay?
Shovel.
And she take that shovel and she drop it in some rice, right? And she hit that on the plate, blop. And then she hit it again, blop. And then the dude on the other side look at her hard, so she hit it one more time, right?
Blop.
Blop. Okay.
The plate that full.
Now, he say, give me some of that gravy, right? So he gets some grease. She gets some grease poured over the rice.
It's not gravy, it's grease.
Then arrange some macaroni, some potato salad, some coleslaw, right? Then you get your meat now. So whether it's chicken and some mutton or whatever, right? And then he slide down, he feeling good, and in a moment of reflection, he say, now give him a Diet Coke. right? And then he will sit down and he don't eat. He'll mash, okay?
Yeah.
And you watch the sweat coming off his face because he is eating the calories intended for a small village, okay? And we do that for lunch, and then we go ahead and do that again for dinner, okay? But I have gotten
And
value.
breakfast.
I've gotten value for money because you put this mountain of food on my plate, and I can eat it because the children starving in Africa. And we hear this over and over and over. So changing this culture now requires that we teach and teach and teach and demonstrate without shaming people, but in a loving, supportive way to say, hey, there's a different way to do this.
When these individuals present at the hospital for treatment, is there any sort of counseling going on so they can say, okay, you're diabetic. Obviously, you should be eating. I know diabetics who are still filling up their plates with pasta and lots of foods. And they're on insulin and everything, but they're still eating poorly. Who? I mean, obviously there's personal responsibility, but who in the medical profession is saying what's going on? What are you eating? And like kind of drilling that in their brains when they're in front of them.
You've heard the diabetics say, and I quote, "They say I have diabetes,
So
but I ain't claiming that." Okay? They say
I got the sugar.
I have high blood pressure, but I ain't claiming that. Okay? Now,
When your foot get cut off,
we have a cultural approach that is heavily steeped in a whole lot of superstition, add in a little bit of religion and hope, and then this fear of the organized doctor pharmaceutical company conspiracy, okay? Because they are trying to get you to take them pills, and them pills ain't good for you. All you need is some Bajerina leaf and some aloe vera and some noni and everything cool, right? And unfortunately, and I'm being deliberately facetious about this now, we see this far too often that people who could control some of their non-communicable diseases are afraid to do so. They will often cite, well, it interferes with my performance, or it costs me to put on weight, or I don't feel so well.
The food I put on the weight is just the pills.
And so, moving our people away from this requires some one-on-one, oftentimes in a culturally appropriate way. You got to get in people's faces and talk to them, explain to them why this don't make any sense.
Well, I tell you, I saw something that it just popped. I went into a class about hypertension in Florida. And I see this chart. And on top of the chart is Bahamas. So, I want to see where we come face. Just the Bahamas, we on the top. The U.S. down at the bottom. Some other countries in the middle. So what's this all about? It was the salt intake.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the per daily thing is around 2,500 milligrams of salt, I think, is the average daily intake, which is recommended intake.
Maximum.
The U.S. citizen was around 5,000 per day. Then they had some people mixed up in there, whatever. The Bahamas, 15 to 30,000. I mean, it's just.
Wow.
But when you look at the diet, the plate you just described, that's a good 10 right there.
And otherwise, if you don't put all that salt, the food fresh. Okay? So, how you expect me to eat this?
You sound like Mr. Fields over there.
How you expect my dog wouldn't eat this, right? And she don't know how to season food. And all of these things that feed into hypertension and stroke, heart disease, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, when it's too late, is generally when we get the message.
Yeah.
Do we have a large number of younger folks being plagued with hypertension, or is it mostly older
We are seeing
Bahamians?
hypertension now in children.
In children?
We are watching our teenagers, 12, 13, 14, developing not only high blood pressure, but diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Now, you can see youngsters with type 1 diabetes, meaning that they're
Eating a lot of candy.
no, this is they're born with it
Okay.
typically, and they may develop it at age 2 or 3. Juvenile onset diabetes. That's a far cry different than adult onset diabetes in teenagers because of putting the sugar load in our bodies. And the worst sugar load is sugar sweetened beverages or soda, or some of these what we call fruit drinks
Yes.
that you put some high fructose corn syrup in a bottle,
yeah.
put some water in it, and put some flavoring in it, right?
That's
cheap,
the
cheap,
thing.
cheap, cheap, cheap.
Yeah.
So you could get 6 of them for $1 or
Yeah,
something.
they're very cheap.
And, I send my child with some juice. You didn't send them with any juice.
No.
You send them with sugar, high
Yeah.
fructose corn syrup that your body does not metabolize, but which is stored in the body as fat. And as a consequence now, we have watched and measured in the STEPS program, we have seen the percentage of our children who are either overweight or obese climb dramatically year by year.
No, go ahead.
Just for me, with the hypertension, how do I know that I'm on the road to suffering from a stroke?
You don't.
It's a silent killer.
And so, this is
potentially.
the fallacy. People say, my pressure okay, I don't have any headache, my head ain't swinging, I feel fine. You can feel fine and have a blood pressure of 220 over 160. And oftentimes, the first time that somebody knows there's a problem is when they have a stroke.
Really?
Now, when we look at the amount of diabetes kidney failure in the Bahamas, the combination of untreated high blood pressure and diabetes is what generally leads to the development of kidney failure in the Bahamas. So it is a failure of adequate control of controllable medical problems, as opposed to some of the more esoteric causes of kidney failure, like polycystic kidney disease, glomerulonephritis, and so on. So it's just that people have high blood pressure and diabetes, they don't claim it,
Yeah.
or they don't get the help that they should get, and it progresses until the point where they wind up in hospital, can't breathe, 15 liters of fluid in their lungs, and their blood urea, nitrogen, and creatinine are through the roof.
As it relates to the kidney failure, do we have a lot of kidney donations going on in this country? Is there like a list that people can get on if they want to donate kidneys?
So
kidney?
that's an excellent question, and it is certainly one of the things that we have to move further on. When the coroner was Winston Saunders pulled myself, Robin Roberts, Adrian Sawyer into court, subpoenaed us because we were in the process of discussing with the University of Miami organ donation with Bahamian patients. And he threatened to put us in jail. And he said, look, I want to set the precedent so that organ donation can take place. So for more than 15 years, Bahamians have been contributing to the UNOS organ sharing system in the United States, which means that Bahamians have access to organs just like Americans.
Okay.
So we've seen Bahamians get heart transplants, kidney transplants, etc. What we need to do in the Bahamas is move to a point where this becomes more universal and to develop a bona fide kidney transplant program. We have had one. It's faded away. We need to bring it back.
Does our population, because our population can't sustain it alone, we have to be a bigger pool, or could we sustain it? You could do it locally?
We have enough
People.
people with kidney failure
Right.
to sustain a kidney transplant program.
Okay. Well, and from Bahamian donors?
From Bahamian donors. Most of the kidney transplants done are living-related donor.
Okay.
So, my sister, my cousin, my friend requires a kidney. We're a match. I donate my kidney, save their life.
Let me ask you a thing about hypertension and, to some extent, diabetes. I have hypertension. What is the difference between someone who has hypertension like me, and I literally take pills every day, versus someone who doesn't treat it? Is there a better, obviously I know the answer to that, but basically, is treating hypertension optimal?
Well, let's put it this way. Does it eliminate your risk of a complication? No. but it dramatically reduces it. So when you look at different therapies, you can say the relative risk reduction is 40% or 50% or 60%. So I have high blood pressure, I have high cholesterol, right? And I believe that I may have picked my parents wrong in that respect, because all of my siblings have high blood pressure. Now, I control it with medication, with diet, and with aggressive exercise. So I work out 4 days a week now, sometimes 5. But for those people who control their pressure, who take their medication, who eat right, they are much less likely to develop kidney failure, much less likely to develop heart disease, much less likely to have a stroke. But the problem is that you still have some people who do foolishness and they live to be 100 years old.
Right.
And then you have people who are eating vegetables all day long,
every day.
never did anything,
Yeah.
No drinking, no
right?
smoking.
And they wind up with a bad problem, a bad health challenge. And so it's not absolute, either black or white.
Yeah.
It is kind of a bell curve, so that if you do the right thing, you're much more likely to do well. If you do the wrong thing, you're much more likely to do poorly. But you got some people with some horrible health habits. They smoke, they drink, they carry on, and they live to be a ripe old age. And they're the ones that people hold up and say,
yeah.
"Oh, you see, you ain't got to eat them vegetables."
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
We're going to take a break, yeah, and we'll be right back. We want to talk about some other things. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Dr. Dwayne Sands and his PR man, Xavier Knowles. We'll be hearing more about Xavier, I'm sure, in the future. There's a couple of things I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to get very concise because we only got so much time. CPDs or whatever, but I don't want to talk about CBD. I want to talk about your stand. I'm being direct now to the minister on the issue of marijuana, and it really is a kind of scenario of health/national security ministry, right? And it's as simple as this. I want to be very specific. Rogan Smith and I think we agree on this approach. We are sending people to jail for essentially doing something that is gaseous versus something that is liquid. I.e., I can go to the liquor store, I can get a beer, I can get a rum, versus a guy who has a joint. And again, I'm not condoning checking it off like these are great things to do. But we send that guy for half a joint or a joint to jail because he doesn't have the money to pay bail or pay the fine. Give him a criminal record, put him in that hellhole, and then expect for him to come out and not be one of them fellas with the head shot. You know, why are we not? Why are we so? And then as we see all around us, the world is changing swiftly. How long is it going to take for us to get to that point?
It's a fallacy that the world is changing swiftly.
Well,
if you look at the legislation, the move towards legalization or decriminalization of marijuana in the first state, which was California, it's been 20 years.
But I say swiftly. It's certainly speeding up.
It is speeding up.
Okay.
The Bahamas now, and the government of the Bahamas has said that based on the CARICOM report,
right,
we have impaneled a marijuana commission. We're going to allow them to make their recommendations, and then we will be guided accordingly.
Okay.
So what's happening simultaneously is you're seeing this one say, boy, I got some CBD toothpaste. I got some CBD skin oil. I got this. I got that. And there are now people who want to come and apply for licenses. Now, I can tell you, based on data that I happen to have with me right now, that there have been no applications for CBD importation. No requests. None. Zero.
They're just bringing it in.
So it now raises a question of enforcement. The Dangerous Drugs Act still says that these things are illegal.
But so is going through a light. So the question I want to ask is this. Let's assume that we don't wish to decriminalize or we don't wish to make legal. Do we have, and this is just an opinion piece here, do we have to send people to jail? We're not sending people to jail if they're going through a light, which to me is infinitely more dangerous than someone smoking a joint. why do we have to criminalize these people? That's all I'm asking.
Ed, I think, what has happened, and based on my conversation with members of the judiciary, that certainly for possession of small amounts of marijuana, okay, that there is rarely ever a custodial sentence.
Is there a record?
Rarely ever a custodial sentence,
Okay.
and typically the option for expunging the record. Now,
Okay.
where you start to get in trouble is when the brother say, man, I only had a kilo for personal consumption. Okay?
Maybe he's a big
A
smoker.
kilo
Well,
of personal
kilos of
consumption.
cocaine.
And the fact that I just happen to have
Personal.
this, separated in 50 little bags.
Yeah.
Should be distributed.
Because one for Monday, one for Tuesday,
Yeah.
one for
It's
Wednesday,
like
and
the
I just
pills.
wanted.
But
So,
yeah.
so oftentimes the problem is not so much possession,
Right.
it's
It's
possession
intent.
with intent to supply.
But
Yeah.
and I'll leave you at one thing. This is one thing I'm going to draw a parallel that you may understand. There's going to come a time, probably in Xavier's lifetime, maybe not in me and your lifetime, and certainly maybe in Rogad's lifetime, where this will not be an issue. And in the same way that I use this example about how, if you remember back in the day when the Christian Council did not wish to support the use of condoms, okay? And so people died. People didn't use condoms because maybe they thought it was not the religious thing to do or the Christian thing to do, so they died. So, jump ahead. All of a sudden now you got signs, cover it up, all kind of slogans. The Christian Council isn't down on it. As a result, lives have been saved. The question I'm asking is, why do we have to wait? I don't get it. It's just a perplexing thing to me that it's so obvious that we are destroying lives by sending people to jail, okay, giving them a criminal record. It's just something I can't grasp.
I put it to you that we're not moving as slowly as you may think.
All right.
Bear in mind that certainly this administration, governments are continuous. So maybe the government of the Bahamas has been slow to move, but this administration has seized this issue.
Okay.
We have decided the method that we're going to use.
Okay.
The panel has been working now for almost 2 months.
Okay.
They will soon report. That report will be presented to the Cabinet of the Bahamas. Some decisions will be made, and I will not preempt them and the work that they're doing, but certainly I think every single sovereign nation is entitled to self-determination.
Right.
We got to decide whether we're talking about decriminalization, legalization, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, hemp production, CBD use.
What is this? I mean, what's the difference between CBD and whatever else they do?
So
you can get high off of toothpaste?
let's bring this down to basic. The
Chemistry?
two major components in marijuana, cannabis, grass, weed, etc., would be THC that you get high on, and CBD that has no ability to get you high, but is thought to have significant medicinal value. For instance, in treating seizures, nausea, and other things. So the separation of CBD from THC is what creates the safe product from
and that's illegal
the marijuana
now.
plant. It is illegal now, okay? But the Dangerous Drugs Act allows, on application, for permission to import, permission to distribute, etc. So if today somebody has a bona fide case, let's say you have terminal cancer, you want this product, it's been prescribed to you elsewhere, we have the ability today to make it available. What we do not plan on doing, as the Marijuana Commission is doing its work, is to circumvent their activity by having a proliferation of licenses issued.
Because they only trying to backdoor the license for the real thing. All right.
Who do they have to apply to? Is it ministry? Ministry?
The Ministry of Health.
All right, let's move ahead just real quick. Last time you were here, we talked about NHI. But before we do that, we only got a little bit of time left. One of the things that intrigued us was this billing system. See, I focus on these little nitty-gritty things, okay? It was this billing system. The fact that you had this potential stream of revenue that was not being realized, and it was not being realized, and correct me if I'm wrong in this trail, because you couldn't bill. Which is just the absurdest thing. Every medical office in this country can bill. You didn't have coders to code the thing for the insurance companies, and as a result, it probably had an impact on the capacity for you to improve facilities, et cetera, because there's no revenue stream. First of all, is that summary correct?
That is a reasonable summary of the facts as they currently exist. Okay.
Where are we now since we had this discussion? Because I saw something in the paper about training of coders, of that whole billing system.
So the process now, the legacy system that we were using was the Keen system, which is basically on its last legs, and so we are now in the preparatory stages of introducing a new system for registration, for billing, etc. Training staff on that, hiring persons who can code the encounters with the system so that they can present a bill in order for the hospital to generate revenue. So yes, it is true. We lose millions of dollars annually because we lack the capacity to generate a bill.
It's nuts. It's a nuts thing.
And we anticipate that we could increase revenue in our public hospitals by anywhere between $40 and $60 million a year.
Timeline. Any timelines on that?
It is happening as we speak, and we should be able to start churning out bills, I imagine, July of 2019.
Right. Okay. Well, it's so these are the foundational things, right? That are required. I tell people all the time they don't realize it's been a short period of time, but no one really gets off on foundation building. It's not until the roof is over the head that you're happy to be in the house. You're not going to go live on the foundation, right? But this is the type of thing that needs to get done.
And you have to drive your decisions with data. We were talking earlier about, non-communicable diseases. The Bahamas will be the first country to engage in, I think it's the third round of the STEPS, which is to assess how many people in our country are hypertensive, diabetic, etc. So we can actually have the data to say what our problem is. So people are going around right now, coming knocking on your door. Don't turn them away. They're not trying to do anything. They will be appropriately attired and identified, but they want to ask you some questions about: do you have high blood pressure, diabetes, etc.? Do you smoke? What medicines you may take? They'll prick your finger to get a blood sugar and cholesterol evaluation, and so we can know how bad the problems are.
Just to leapfrog on that, and then I'm going to go back to Xavier to find out about this program and where people can see it, etc. On the side of the NHI deal, which was very well explained to us by Graham and by Robin, and of course the funding. What I found intriguing there was the whole issue of how you reduce costs by using things like home dialysis and home. What was the other one, Rogan? Colon screening.
Yes.
Cheaper colon screening rather than jump right to the colonoscopy. It seemed very rational. The only thing we had a problem with, I think, was the issue of facilities. But they gave a decent answer there in that the private sector might fill that gap as they saw the benefit to them. But recently, we see in the paper that Cabinet, money again, summarizing, seemed to reject the model, or was concerned about the model, I should say, in terms of the ability, I suppose, to pay for itself and fund itself. Where are we with that?
I think the way the article was written, and Neil Hartnell would have called me and we had a discussion about the process. Bear in mind that cabinet discussions are confidential, they're secret. And so in a discussion, you can speak in general terms about what has transpired. Ultimately, the cabinet of the Bahamas have been significantly impressed with the work done by the NHI authority. But as with any major public program, we want to make sure that we get it right. Dot I's, cross T's. And so they would have been given some instructions to do some additional work prior to consideration of the overall program. this should not be construed as rejection or that we were unhappy with it. It's simply a matter of, okay, you presented this to us, we got some questions. What about this? What about that? Come back when you have these answers.
So it's still a very big priority for the government now.
Absolutely.
All right. Mrs. Ivy Knowles,
Let's give him the final
tell
6
us,
minutes.
what you're cooking?
What you cooking?
What you cooking? What you cooking, mate?
What is this thing on? Zendesk?
So we're in the stages of finalizing all of the channels that we'll be putting the show out on. But we're hoping for a launch at the latter part of this month. And we are trying to stick to that goal. But we have completed all of our shows. We're just in this.
How many shows you got?
So we have 9 episodes, and they range with various different themes.
You ain't invite me and Rogan to do no cooking on the show.
And our sponsors have been gracious in facilitating the show. We have Solomon's Fresh Market, AML Foods. They provided all of the food for the show.
Very good.
The kitchen is provided by Atlantis, Atlantis Kids Adventures.
Look at you.
They've been so gracious and so welcoming to us.
That's your people.
That's my piece. What's that?
People.
No.
We have Hands for Hunger, and we have our friends that are alive. But they all have chipped in. We have a committee made up of individuals from different cross sections of the country in different professions who've sat to the table and helped us plan the show from start to finish from last year.
Been very organized in terms of the stuff I said. You have people on that, right? Yeah, Ken Wife in that, mate.
He's in one of the segments.
Yeah,
Don't lie.
Yeah,
You
but
sitting there so quiet.
She pull him in, but she ain't pull us in.
Yeah, but the show has been a very interesting experience, especially for me as a young person. Seeing all the healthy meals prepared. I know we were just talking about how Bahamians like that all that salt.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was so
Salt-free?
much meals that I don't want to say they were salt free. There was little to no salt, and they were very appeasing.
What people don't realize, this thing that this crusade I've been going on for many years, and I don't adhere to it well. For instance, first of all, your taste buds can lose the taste for salt within 3 or 4 days. You can adjust your taste buds. It will adjust. So, for instance, in sauce, I make sauce at home. You get sauce made at home. I put a lot of celery because celery has a salty component to it. Trust me, after a while, and then when you go back to the real thing, the restaurant you go to, and then you hit that sauce, you think you just dive an ocean, the Dead Sea. Okay, it's so your taste buds have that capacity to adjust, and people just don't realize that that's the case. Is that good?
Same thing with sugar. You get some people who like to have some tea in their sugar, right? So that's how we do it. Yeah, we put a tea bag, we put a half a cup of sugar, we put a little water, and then we just
you got some tea syrup.
Stir that, right?
Stir it up.
No, but it's true because I drink now unsweetened iced tea every day. I get about a half a gallon made, and I just don't taste the lack of sugar. It's amazing how your taste buds adjust.
But you're not saying not to eliminate sugar, but just scale it down completely. Scale it down.
Get to the point. I see you jonesing for sugar, right? So don't try and do it cold. Don't do it cold turkey.
Ain't gonna work.
So if you are somebody who like 3 teaspoons of sugar in your drink, then go to 2. And then after a while, go to 1. And then go to a half. And now you may not be able to get beyond that point.
Yeah.
But certainly 1 is much, much better than 3.
Agreed.
And there's some people,
especially if you're drinking 3 cups
I
of tea
see
a
people,
day.
they come with a cup of coffee and they literally put 10 packets of sugar in it.
I agree with you on that.
Or they get that old thing that has a little lid, and they just pour.
During the show, we had a lot of conversation about sugar, and most of our chefs, what they did, they gave us options that we can use other than sugar.
Okay.
So even when we were making drinks, they were giving options of different types of fruit that will add that have natural sweeteners that will add that great taste.
Yeah.
We were cooking pancakes and so forth, and they would use a dash of, instead of using syrup, they'll use honey and some orange and create like a
orange honey syrup.
A little syrup
that
thing,
tastes good.
and they'll put it over the pancake, and that just eliminated sugar.
Altogether.
All that
I want to ask you about
Proper sugar.
sugar. When you think of fruits, I use now for my candy is fruit. But can you have too much fruit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh Lord.
And particularly, there's
What about
certain,
grape? You like
there's
grape?
certain fruit that you gotta take in moderation.
Okay.
But pound for pound, and I might get myself in trouble.
Yeah.
I would prefer you to go with the fruit than with the sugars and even artificial sweeteners. I think now we're finding that they're not as good or not as healthy for you.
I like the Sprite Zero.
But
I dig on that.
moderation.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't used the white sugar and God knows how. I mean, like literally years.
Yeah, yeah. So what?
Like,
You use brown sugar?
No,
So that's your excuse?
no, I don't use sugar.
Sugar, okay.
Yeah.
Because people do that. I use the sea salt.
Himalayan sea salt.
I don't use that Morton.
No.
I go with the sea salt, and that's good for you, buddy.
I like the salt. That's my weakness.
Like the man tell me, fat is fat, salt is salt, and sugar is sugar.
Yeah, but see, the worst part is you could get somebody to spend $20 for some sea salt. Okay?
The Himalayan?
Oh, yes. Yeah, but that's good for you, That's good for you, right? So now you're not getting any health benefits.
Yeah.
You might get a couple of minerals
And you're
out
broke.
of the deal. But you have also now spent $10, $15 just
Yeah.
because a little purple or a little blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that marketing is serious. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the certain kind of mustard. I ain't gonna call no
Yeah,
names.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You remember the fellas
Poupon?
driving down.
Poupon?
Yeah.
You know?
marketing.
And as far as I can say, that tastes bad.
We'll spend
I do.
5 times what we ought to spend just
Yeah.
because the packaging is
Yeah.
good and the marketing is great.
Yes. Yeah, you have the great Poupon.
So end of the month, Xavier. We'll
Yeah.
start seeing it. Okay.
Yeah, so
All right.
end of the month, and so we're very excited.
Well, give us a thing so we can promote it during the course of the show.
Sure. Well, we have a Facebook page called What You're Cooking. You can go there. And the episodes will also be live on Facebook.
All right.
So as soon as they are live on the TV stations, they will be live on Facebook as well.
Is this a bumper sticker? This a full up bumper sticker you give me?
He has a logo of the show in the
Turn it,
front.
This is a look.
Oh, I actually like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
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 This project.
Yeah. No, he's been. Have you been in all the shows?
No.
Okay. All right.
He was in the 8th episode.
The 8th episode. Okay.
Um,
Rogan and I were in none. Just remember that.
I will
season
tell
two. That's
you.
season two.
I will tell
Season
you
2, we'll go.
that this show is absolutely incredible. I mean, the level of professionalism
And the chefs. Big Chef Ken.
that's demonstrated. I mean, they went over the top.
What Ken was doing in the show, man?
And
He's
Sampling
tasting-
it.
He's tasting the food.
well, we had a particular show called what is it? The Cutter Special. A
Cutter
night,
Special.
a spin on the Cutter Special. So Ken was someone's
Ken.
date.
Yeah.
Ken Cutter Williams.
Yeah.
He was someone's date, and he
He
handled
did a good
himself
job.
in the kitchen.
He could do
yes.
some acting.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
He did a great
We'll be
job.
the judge
We'll
of
be,
that.
we'll be the judge of that. Listen, Dr. Sands,
Thank you, both of you.
Xavier Knowles, thank you very much. Good conversation, wide range of things, but the main thing, folks, is we got to get ourselves in shape, man. We got to get it together. Otherwise, we're just gonna fall apart.
100,000 diabetics, 100,000.
That's the whole
hypertension.
nation, man.
My God.
Only the children left.
Yep.
We'll see you next Thursday. We'll see you on
Thursday.
Thursday. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.